Well, the shit keeps getting stirred up between Ariel Helwani and Tony Khan. This, of course, famously stirred back up last week because of a tweet that Tony Khan had posted. Let's go ahead and take a look at that here as a refresher. You're a fraud at Ariel Helwani. You're as legitimate of a reporter as at Tony Schiavone. What the fuck does Tony Schiavone have to do with this? Poor Tony Schiavone. And then as you scroll down, Ariel Helwani replied, "Thanks for watching, old friend. Can't wait for our next chat. Also, don't listen to the snowman, Shivani. You're a legend in my books, both of his books, all two of them." And then Tony Khan replied, "Good luck with the unbiased journalism." Now, of course, this spun off into, I won't play a clip from WWE for obvious reasons, but if you caught it at the Elimination Chamber, you heard Michael Cole on commentary refer to Ariel Helwani as the unbiased journalist who asks the tough questions, even if you don't want to answer them. This, of course, was in reference to where all of this drama started to begin with. Was over at the interview that Ariel Helwani did with Tony Khan. This is actually even predates that a little bit because there was a little bit of heat on MJF for doing Ariel Helwani's show without Tony Khan's permission. And then, Ariel caught wind of that. So he thought that there was already kind of a little bit of heat there to begin with. But Tony Khan sat down on Ariel's show, and I'll play a little clip of just this most awkward fucking interview you've ever seen, just so you can get an idea of what that was like, a little refresher.
Could I ask, you mentioned MJF, my good friend. I think, and I've said this on many different platforms, I think he's one of, if not the best thing going in pro wrestling today, regardless of promotion. I'm a huge admirer of his work. He reminds me of, prime 1980s Roddy Piper, the way he conducts himself, just the mic work, everything about him. A few months ago when we did that interview and even afterwards, like when he's talking about his contract, and now I think you've done a nice job of kind of blending that into the program as well. And it's stuff that fans, especially of my generation, like we like that stuff when we're not sure what's a work, what's a shoot. He's calling you a mark, all that stuff. Initially, were you comfortable with him talking about, because in the business historically, we don't know when contracts are up. Were you comfortable with all of that?
This is one of those things that I don't want to talk about, but I do think I agree with everything you let off with. I think he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. It's amazing how much he's accomplished already at such a young age. He's a great talent. And
could I just follow up, if I may? Like, the reason why I'm so drawn to MJF is because he talks about this side of the game. You're a football guy. We love the business side of sports, right? Free agency, transfers, deals. This, I think, is brilliant. So I'm just curious, why don't you want to talk about it? Like, why? This, I think, is part of his appeal, and I think it's great for the storyline, his spot in the company. He's going to be a free agent in a year and a half or so, and you're talking about it on the broadcast as well.
Yeah, but I don't see how going into detail about it, other than talking about his wrestling and what he brings to the show, and of course, everything he brings, his great promos, his great ideas. There's a lot there, but I think you're starting if you want to get into the contracts and that aspect of it with me. Same as my other jobs. If you wanted to talk about the contracts at Fulham, I would probably be kind of vague. I would say, like, I really like the player. I think it's good business we're doing, and I think it's a great transfer that we're making, and we're doing a smart move for the club. But you getting into the numbers and stuff, rarely will I do that.
When he was on my show, he just said that he came to terms with you on a deal, but not an extension. Can I ask if that was accurate?
Yeah, I don't want to comment on what we did, but I think he's been well compensated, and I'm glad to have him on the shows, and he's like a huge part of it now. So it's great.
What was going through your mind at that press conference Labor Day? I mean, I was just trying to watch you as Punk, who I know quite well, was saying what he had to say. I was dying to know what was just happening in your mind in that moment as all that was unfolding. Could you share any of that with us?
I cannot share any of that with you.
Okay.
But I
were you upset?
You asked. I can't talk about it, but I appreciate, and understand that you had to ask.
Fair enough. Could I ask, what is the state of your relationship with CM Punk?
You can ask, but I appreciate that you asked, but I cannot answer that, my friend.
Okay, fair enough. Could I ask what's the state of his relationship with AEW? Like, is he going to come back? Is he suspended? I think there's a lot of intrigue, a lot of questions regarding where he sits right now. I know he's nursing an injury, but is he going to come back, or is that up in the air?
You can ask, but I cannot answer that and comment, my friend.
Fair enough. And what about the other particulars involved in the alleged incident afterwards? Can you comment on their status with the company? Are they back at least?
The whole thing. I just the whole thing. Talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. But I
understand. I had to ask.
I understand what you got to do.
And so then shortly after that, Ariel Helwani just said what we all noticed from the interview itself. In fact, I was on that shit. I covered that clip, that interview that Tony Khan did. And that was my take on it, is that it was a shitty interview before Ariel ever even responded. And then Ariel backed that take up when he said flat out on his show, he came on and said that was one of the worst interviews he's ever had. Check out this clip.
Did this interview with Tony Khan last Tuesday. It aired Wednesday night. It was for the YouTube channel. You can check it out. I look, whatever I'm going to say here is going to piss off the AEW supermarks. But I'll just say this. One of the most frustrating and, to a degree, not so fun interviews of my career. Because, as you may have seen, he didn't want to answer anything. Now, look, like, you're going to come on and promote X, Y, and Z. Great. And I'll play that dance with you. And I did at the beginning. But you got to give us something. To not even tell me, like, how you were feeling. I'm not asking for specifics on, all right, fine, I asked, is Punk going to wrestle for you? Is he coming back? You don't want to get into it? Fine. But just tell me how you were feeling. Give me something. MJF contract. Hey, I don't do business in the public, but I'll tell you, love having him on board. Look forward to many years together. But give me something. Don't just say, not going to talk about it. Not going to talk about it. Doesn't serve me. Doesn't serve me. That's not the way you do it. If you want to be the voice, if you want to be the face, there's a way to do that dance. Look at Eddie. Look at Dana back in the day. Look at some of the great promoters over the last 30 years. There's a way of giving us the answer, even though it's not the answer I want, but you're giving us some sort of answer, something to chew on, as opposed to just shutting it all down. Not very enjoyable. And if I'm being honest, like, right off the bat, I was like, oh, I think you didn't like me back in the day, because he turned down multiple interviews with me. And then we get right into the MJF thing and, like, really deep into the weeds on the PR stuff. And I was like, golly, this is how we're starting? All right. I just, took a shot at BT, the ITV stuff, should have went back at him and reminded him 2 minutes ago that he, was fawning over Warner Brothers Discovery about being the greatest place for AW. Meanwhile, BT is owned by Warner Brothers Discovery, and yet he's telling me that ITV is a better place than BT. Like, just these things that were, discrepancy. Says he never met Nick Khan, then he says he talked to him on the phone. I was like, what are we doing here? Well, what is this? And you're not going to give me one legit answer? I appreciated meeting him. I enjoyed it, but, like, the enjoyment of getting to talk to the guy who founded this great property that has done a lot of great things in 3 years fizzled out rather quickly when I realized the only answers he's going to give me are these long drawn out answers, promoting all this stuff and going on these tangents about Chris Jericho and this and that, when, we got a tight window. And I kept mentioning the tight window because they told me there was a tight window, and I can't get to any of the stuff. And then when I get to the stuff, you don't want to answer any of them.
So now that you're all caught up and we're back to present day here, let's go ahead and take a look at Ariel Helwani still talking shit on the MMA Hour, hanging out with a couple of his buddies. I don't fucking know who. And they're talking about this Tony Khan tweet. And boy, does Ariel not hold back and just makes a fucking joke out of Tony Khan. Check out this clip.
And I see this fucking tweet from Tony Khan. And I swear to God, I looked at it like 3 times and thought it was fake. I thought it was fake because, anyone can have a blue check, right?
Anyone can be
verified.
Like,
there is no way. This guy doesn't follow me. He's never tweeted me. There is no way that he actually tweeted this. Number one, proving that he was watching, which is bizarre. Why would you do that? Why would you put the competition over and show that you're watching some random SmackDown and a random moment in the telecast? Number two, putting down his own guy in the process, your guy, GC, the great Tony Schiavone. But the amazing thing is how the whole thing spread backstage. everyone was, do you see the tweet? You see the tweet? You see the tweet? And like, I've just been here for 4 hours. Like, I don't even know a lot of these people. This is amazing. How could he have done? Was that really him? What a, blah, 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 blah. I was like, well, yeah, I guess it was really him. He doesn't follow me, but I guess it was really him. And I still feel kind of bad for Tony Schiavone that he was insulted in the process. Now, to take a step back, he is still upset, clearly, over the fact that he gave me one of the all-time worst interviews, and ignoring the fact that I have continuously praised the product ever since they launched around 3 years ago. It was just a bad interview, objectively a bad interview. Now, what's amazing about that interview is, everyone loves to talk about, oh, he couldn't talk about this, he couldn't talk about that, legal this, legal that. First of all, like, where's the fucking legal, right? Where's the proof?
We've been waiting for a while on that.
Where's the proof? What legal are you guys talking about? You're going to compare this to this and that. Like, where's the what is this investigation that you guys keep talking about? This guy who has built an amazing thing, all credit to him. This kid who, if it wasn't for his old man, wouldn't be. Let me tell you something. My dad gave me a lot, but as far as like MMA journalism and everything that I've built, that was all on me. All right. I'm very proud of what I built. I wasn't going to let this guy fucking soil my name, drag it through the mud, ruin my night. Montreal, a dream, a bucket list thing. And I know he's trying to get himself over on me because Lord knows he needs it. I wasn't going to let that happen.
So while we were playing that clip, I was actually looking at Twitter still. I had that up on the other page, and I noticed Ariel Helwani actually put in his bio, check out this over here in the corner, fraud, bird-watching journalist. I don't know where the bird-watching comes from, but fraud, he threw the fraud in there, obviously as a poke. And this is so funny. Tony Khan really dug himself a hole with this one. I want to like Tony Khan. Look, I like AEW for the most part. I love a good fucking wrestling match. I always like AEW Dynamite anyway. I don't watch Rampage or Dark or any of that shit. But when I watch Dynamite, I like it, and there's nothing about it that I don't like. I can't say that I'm always compelled to watch. It's not like nothing's must see, right? But I enjoy AEW for the most part. You know what I mean? And I like a lot of the wrestlers there. I like the wrestlers there more than I like them in WWE. So I would even go as far as to say I like AEW better than I like WWE still, even during the Bloodline hype and all of that. But, so I want to like Tony Khan. I really do. But come on, man. This shit makes him look like such a cuck, such a weak little fuck. Like, he's going to call Ariel Helwani and out on Twitter in public. He thought this was a good idea to call him an unbiased journalist and a fraud for being on WWE TV. Ariel pointed it out just perfectly. He's not a wrestling journalist. He's not Dave Meltzer. He doesn't break stories in wrestling. His allegiance is not an issue to his journalism. You know what I mean? It's not like he's going to work for the UFC and then trying to cover fucking Bellator or whatever the fuck else is out there still. That thing that CM Punk does commentary on. It's lowbrow bullshit. He didn't need to go out there and make this kind of tweet public. It just makes him look weak, and it makes him look insecure. It makes him look like he still holds a grudge from that interview from Ariel Helwani, or at least Ariel's comments after the interview. Maybe Tony left that interview thinking, it was fine, whatever. And then he heard Ariel bury him and say it was his worst fucking interview ever, or at least his hardest, or whatever he said there. So, I'm sure Tony is salty with Ariel. And look, Ariel's... I love Ariel Helwani. Like, I've also said this on the show. I think this guy is top-notch, top-of-the-line journalist. As a sports journalist, he's the best. If not the best, he's in the top. He's in that conversation for sure. And like I've said many times, if he breaks out of the sports world and goes into like interviewing celebrities and movie stars and politicians and presidents and stuff like that, like, he could really go down as one of the biggest interviewers of all time. He can be that guy that's doing those legendary interviews like the Barbara Walters shit, you know, the Walter Cronkite. That could be Ariel Helwani someday. I really believe that. He's great at what he does, but he can also be a dick. He's hard to like. He's very smug, very smug. He's like overly smug. Like he probably needs to get smacked a little bit just because he's too arrogant in himself. And he says things so slyly that he feels like he can slip them in under the radar. You know, if you ever just pick up on the way that he does shit, he's very sneaky with his little jabs, his little pokes that he likes to do. But you see it right there, like that fraud bird-watching journalist in his profile. He's still poking the bear. But Tony, look, Ariel Helwani's hard to like sometimes, and he can be a dick sometimes, and I understand why Tony Khan would be salty at Ariel Helwani because of what Ariel had said about their interview. But it was a shitty interview. You can't go on Ariel Helwani and expect to just be like, well, we have a great roster at AEW and the network's behind us, and look, our ratings have been up week over week, and we got this big pay-per-view coming up, and that's all Tony Khan likes to do. That's all the blah, 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 just fucking Jesus. Slow down, guy, and answer some real questions, you know? And I think Ariel was right, too. He had said in this little clip here that on his YouTube channel that and I put the full thing down in the comments or in the description for you if you want to watch that full segment that he did. Just burying Tony Khan, essentially. But he did compare him. He did, also say that he kind of wants to win the approval of Dana White because he knows Dana doesn't like Ariel either. So Tony just looks like a bitch. It makes him look bad, and this is the kind of stuff that makes him lose credibility in the public eye, which in turn makes AEW lose credibility in the public eye. People want a strong brand. People want to know that there's a strong leader behind the product. They don't want this fucking whiny little bitchy cunt on Twitter just complaining about journalists showing up in the crowd of a fucking wrestling show when they're not even wrestling journalists. Besides, he's got Dave Meltzer in his goddamn pocket and he knows it, you know? So he can take his unbiased journalism and shove it up his ass there too, because he knows goddamn well that Meltzer does him favors for sure. But that's my take on it. Look, Tony Khan looks like a bitch here, and Ariel Helwani's having fun with it, and all the guys in the WWE locker room, and Michael Cole, and God, Tony Khan's the laughing stock of the business right now. You know how bad that makes him look, and in turn makes AEW look? It makes them look like a joke. It makes him look like a joke. All you got to do is get Nick Khan on there with his smug ass, too. Get him on a phone call with any AEW top stars. Like, come on, kid. Come over and play with the big boys now. You done playing with that kid over there? The little punk-ass, whiny Twitter kid? Come play with the big boys. Join the big leagues. The more that Tony does that shit, the more that he's setting, the more that they just look inferior. And God damn, I'm rooting for him because not only do I like the product, but the business needs a strong number two. It doesn't need a TNA and a fucking NWA and a GCW way down at the bottom. You know, these are like your Fagos and your fucking, your Value Mart fucking colas compared to Coke. And Tony Khan is trying to present Pepsi versus Coke. And he's kind of RC Cola in it right now. You know what I mean? That's my take, though. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next.
Let me tell you something, brother. You can check out full episodes each and every Sunday right here on this channel, dude. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to take your vitamins and say your prayers, brother.